Okay. See if you can find it. I can see it right there.
Did you do it already?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It's on there.
Might give me a notification. All right, let's.
I still don't get why there's this echo.
Yeah, I hear it. Okay, I see it. All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo Rice, and my correspondent.
Cherie.
All right, so today we have a friend of the show, which you all recognize her from kicking off season 5, none other than, I'm gonna call her the doctor, Dr. Gladys Agwai. How are we doing today, ma'am?
Doing all right, doing great, as a matter of fact. Thanks for asking, and thanks for having me back.
Of course, good times, always good times, always good times. All right, so for those that may not know you, give them a little bit about your background, tell them a little bit about you.
So I come from a corporate executive background and transitioned into my own business about 6 years ago. My company is Ignite Within, and I work with professionals to help professionals who work too much, disengaged in what they do, don't like what they do, to get clarity about what it is that they really want, to get unstuck, to get out there and achieve the outcomes that they want in their life, in their business, and in their career. And I do that through international speaking, coaching, and training.
All right, tell me about a little bit about your background, like where you came from, all that good stuff, and all the other good stuff that you work internationally, globally, all that good stuff.
All that good
Give them a better idea of who you are.
That good stuff. So, I'm a Georgia peach. So I was born, I'm a Grady baby, and raised in Gary, Indiana. Lived in Chicago for years, and it just got too cold, and I ran back home to the South. But I've had the opportunity and pleasure to have my corporate experience as well as my business experience globally. I actually had the, wonderful opportunity to work and live in Africa, in Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya. And when I was over there, they said, "Welcome home, sister." And I embraced all of that. And it was really good to be able to come full circle from coming from there originally to going through slave and civil rights and all of that, to say it was not all in vain. I've come to give back. And even because of technology, and we'll talk about how things change, that change is constant. Because technology has changed, it has allowed me to still be able to communicate globally. I've done some things in Paris as well, and looking to do some other things. So just really excited. And I believe that everybody should have this global perspective and look at yourselves as, am I globally competitive? And I think this situation that we're in with the coronavirus tells us that we don't have border walls really, that we're all global and we need to think globally, right? Even if we can't be living in another place, that our community looks global.
Okay, all right. Simone, so fill us in on where we stand with this coronavirus debacle here in Georgia. Where do we stand right currently? Simone.
Oh, hi. I thought you were asking Ms. Agwai what her opinion was and where we kind of stand. I apologize. So that's right. Georgia started reopening this week. Georgia is one of the first states to reopen. There's a lot about that in the news. We can get into that a little bit later, but just in terms of the numbers, there are 26,000 confirmed cases, 26,237 to be exact. There have been 1,100 deaths. In the entire country, there have been 1.1 million confirmed cases. and about 133,000 of those people have been recovered. Georgia does not have data that is published in terms of recovered cases quite yet. So we don't know that, independent of the number of those who have died, that there are folks, the number of people who have recovered, but 26,000 is a decent amount. Our death rate is kind of in line with the rest of the country in terms of 4% of people who ultimately had confirmed cases and then did die of the virus. You know, Governor Kemp has been making his rounds, talking to different people and on different shows about his choice to reopen and the data that he used. He was challenged on that a little bit by a few reporters at a press conference earlier this week, and referred very often to the Department of Public Health officials to talk about why they did support reopening. One of the things that Kemp has said a couple of times is that he really wanted our hospitals to have capacity, that his impetus for reopening was that our hospitals were so overloaded that we could not treat cases. And what he's kind of looking at in terms of us flattening the curve is that he believes that, based on the data, that we're now in a place where we can treat people. And so that's kind of why we reopened. So social media is really talking about our nail salons and our hair salons reopening and how dangerous they think that is. But technically speaking, yes, businesses are reopening, and everything that we've already had access to in terms of essential services, that's still there. Companies individually have a choice about how much they're going to open. There are still gyms that are not opening, even though they're legally allowed to at this point, because they think that it's safer not to, especially all the major fitness location chains. There are certainly restaurants that are still not open because they don't believe that it's safe. So it's kind of a green light, but you know, there's a lot of businesses and people who are taking, you know, who are taking matters into their own hands and remaining to shelter in place and be on lockdown until things seem safer.
All right, so there's been, I think we have this whole debacle kind of play. We're watching it play out where we're hearing Trump saying he doesn't support Kemp. Kemp is saying he did the best he could do. I actually told my mom the other day, I said, you know, I have to say that I kind of understand a little bit where Kemp is sitting, because on one hand, you're getting everybody saying don't open the city. But then on the other hand, you're getting calls from small business saying, if you don't at least allow us the opportunity to open up, then we're going to go under. So I kind of get where he's sitting at. I don't think it's ideal for anybody and at that level of leadership to kind of be in this moment. So I don't know. I don't think anything is actually changing either, because Trump still sits where he sits. He hasn't said anything otherwise. And you said something about an article you said that was written about Georgia, about how we went first and were the bad example or something to that extent.
Yeah.
So what
yeah.
was
So this was the New York Times article. Georgia went first, did it wrong is the title of the New York Times article. It's in the opinion section. And essentially talking about, this is by Karen Landman, by the way. She's a doctor and she specializes in infectious diseases. Essentially saying that because Kemp has allowed tattoo parlors and hair salons and other high-touch businesses to reopen, that he's kind of undermined even President Trump's very ambitious plans, which a lot of health officials were against and believed that the threshold for reopening that even Trump said was too low, and Georgia hadn't quite met that threshold. Georgia is technically in the bottom 5th of the country. It's in the lowest 10 states. So yeah, the bottom 5th in terms of how many people have the disease or the virus per capita. And we still chose to reopen. There again, like you said, there's a lot of pressure from the economy. So I just want to frame that, because Kemp has, the Department of Labor has announced that there's 1.1 million workers in Georgia who filed for unemployment since the virus happened. That's a 5th of our workforce who have actually filed for unemployment. The article basically says that we're using favorable data. So the article criticizes Kemp of using good data and favorable data in terms of whether or not we should be reopening. The data that is used is kind of talking about the fluctuation of positive cases. And there's some that conflict with one another. A lot of people have issues with the fact that even though we're looking at confirmed cases, they believe that people aren't getting tested as often. So one of the things that Kemp tried to say is that, we've loosened the standards around testing, so now more people can get tested, but we're not sure if more people are getting tested. A lot of folks, really wanted to get their hands on a test back in March or even earlier in April and wanted to know if they were sick. But now less and less people are getting tested. And so as the numbers begin to flatten, there's criticism that those numbers are only flattening because less and less people are getting tested, not because they aren't carrying the virus and not because they can't pass it to anybody else. So that was the core of the criticism of Kemp's decision to reopen. There may or may not be something to that. I know personally, I'm not at this point running out to get tested, if that makes sense. Not that I have any symptoms, thank God, but you know, in the beginning, it was the case that you pretty much had to have a fever to get a test, and the Department of Public Health in Georgia is saying that that's not the case anymore. So it kind of, again, there's people who don't know who to trust in terms of numbers. You know, are people getting healthier, or are people just kind of not getting tested and quitting? And is that why we look healthier?
Yeah, but isn't it not what he did, but how he did it? The businesses he's choosing to open up that you know you can't do social distancing from, that's a more dangerous, you know, opportunity to be able to get the virus, and you don't know who has the virus. Not just the people who are working in the salon, they don't know what journey their customers have taken to ensure that they're not infected, or you know, and the hygienes and things like that that they've taken. So for me, it was the choices of businesses that he decided to open. And some states have looked at opening in more of the less congested areas, and doing things like that. And then the whole funding mechanism was supposed to be able to help small businesses to offset them not being able to work. So maybe that program actually, from what I'm hearing, has not really been as successful in getting the funding in the hands of people. And then there are some people who just don't qualify because maybe they didn't have the right paperwork and things like that. So it's a conundrum for sure. And I think he did it, it seems like, in a silo, and it didn't involve the mayors of key cities and making decisions, maybe not bringing, you know, people to the right team of people together to help to understand what the ramifications would be.
Well, I think that's the issue for me, though. And I guess there's no real dead run around it. When you put money into banks' hands and says you distribute this money on our behalf, that kind of starts with bias. And I don't know if it's a conscious bias, because it does kind of make sense. They're the ones that handle the money on a day-to-day basis, so it kind of makes sense. But at the same token, when you're really talking about the small businesses that really need this money, a lot of them get real funny, especially when you start looking at the different types of communities. A lot of them get real funny when it comes to banks. Like those same things we were talking about, hair salons, barbershops, things of that magnitude. When you have conversations with a lot of them are just like, yeah, I don't really deal with banks like that. You know, I'll do something here or there, but they don't have like working, standing, good relationships with these banks. So when it comes to distributing money, the banks, and it's a good smokescreen, because they can legitimately say, well, we started with the companies that we had good working relationships with because we can see their track records. We know them in essence. So it's kind of like you said, it's a real conundrum, because it's like, okay, well, I get that. But at the same token, this money needs to go to the barbershops, to the hair salons. So how do you do that? Which I think that's what we're kind of seeing as, like, how do you get this money directly to them? And then my question to the banks was, how do you define a small business? Because if your ideology of a small business is 500 people and less, we already have a problem. Because I believe that's what they did. It was like, well, a small business is if you have less than 500 employees. No, that's not how we would define a small business.
Yeah. So, I'm expecting that to come up in the next. I'm sorry. I'm expecting that to come up in the next session for sure, like the definition of a small business, because that's something that legislators can tackle and can contribute to even on the agency side, but because that affects a lot. It affects the costs of different types of insurance, unemployment insurance. It affects the cost of everything for businesses, is how you define it, whether or not it's small and what they're able to get. But I think that Ms. Gladys, you made a great point in terms of the mayors of the major cities and what they have to say about it. Kelly Gertz, who's the mayor of Athens, said that about 90% of the local businesses that she spoke with said that they have no intention of reopening anytime soon. And we know Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms is very adamant against what's going on. But it kind of looks like, from just a purely political standpoint, that it kind of left Kemp holding the short stick, because the governor initially had the support of the president of the United States. And then amid all this backlash, Trump kind of came out and rebuked the idea of us opening early. And like this morning, The Atlantic, which is a really, really well-read publication, states that this is essentially a Georgian experiment in human sacrifice. And the byline is the state is about to find out how many people have to die to shore up the economy. That's a big accusation. And again, I know that the governor, even though this hasn't been as much talked about, is getting a lot of pressure from folks who do not know how they're going to subsidize their income. And, you know, businesses don't have 8 weeks and 12 weeks of reserves lying around for something like this to happen. So again, it's a very tough situation, but I think it's one where
they talked about didn't they say in other parts of the world, they were giving money directly to the people as opposed to going through banks and things like that. So direct deposits always works really good. Now, you know, the government may say, I don't trust or whatever, but, you know, here they are in this situation. And I also think that small businesses, this is a time for them to reflect on, if this were to happen again, how would you be better prepared the next time? So if you know that the tendency is that things are going to go through banks, are you going to continue to not have a relationship with the bank, or are you going to now work towards having that relationship with the bank? You see the kind of paperwork and what's going to be required if you want to get access to funds. And that's not just within this coronavirus thing, but period. Before the coronavirus, there's a problem with access of capital. After it, it's going to be a problem with access of capital. So I'm all about also reflecting on self-ownership. What can you do to ensure that when these events occur, you have positioned your business and yourself to ensure that you can ride the wave, ride the storm, right?
Well,
So I think that has to be a consideration as well.
Well, I think that's my concern now. It's like, okay, in the older days, you had these kinds of organizations, and I always go back to the NAACP, that were constantly in the community and constantly having communications with these businesses to say, okay, look, you guys need to have a working relationship with these banks. What are you running into that has stopped you from really developing a relationship with these banks? You know, are you going into them and sitting down with them and they're being utterly rude to you? Are they making paperwork 10 times harder for you to get things that you need? Why are you not developing a good relationship with your bank? Because you got to be funneling your money somewhere to do what you need to do. So you're probably using a bank. You're just not utilizing merchant services or other types of things that you should be utilizing. And I think at this point, somebody needs to be in the community having these conversations with these businesses to get to the bottom of why at this point in time, you're not developing a relationship with a bank so that when crap like this does happen, you're not left out in the outside, you know, not being able to feel the trickle that's coming down from the powers that be. So I think that's kind of an issue that we're having now. The middleman is kind of nowhere to be found. So it's like we need to either redevelop a middleman, or the older gatekeepers and stuff. We kind of need you, because this point it's kind of like a free fall.
Yeah, and that's why I
that's
say
not going in our favor.
Change it's constant. It's happened in the past, the present, and the future. Times change, people change, technology changes, and problems change. So to me, this isn't new. Is the magnitude different? Yes, but it isn't new. And we get into these events that come up. Remember, change is constant. And these events come up, and then we're surprised, oh my God. But if we had not ignored the signals or missed the signals in the past of what we've experienced before, and then made changes, what we know in our gut we need to do. So we keep ignoring these signals at all levels, and that's the problem. And then we're surprised, denied, frustrated, angry. You know, want to be up at the Capitol in Michigan carrying rifles and yelling in people's faces because you're not opening up, you know, that particular state, right? But this has happened before in 2008. It happened before. And in 2008, the people who were working in corporate, they got laid off. They didn't get paid to stay home. In this environment, a lot of people are getting paid to stay home. Businesses were in that same situation in 2008 as they're in today. People stopped buying because money wasn't coming in. So what lessons were learned? How did you research what was happening? What changes did you make? You should be modeling your business, modeling your life as though change is. You are change. Your life is change. Your business is change. So you should be working to ensure that you are flexible when those events come up and be proactive with it.
Ms. Gladys, what do you make of, I want to ask on that point, what do you make of kind of how people react to things like losing their jobs or having to stay home? Because the day that Kemp announced that he was going to begin reopening the state, there was a protest planned at the Capitol by a group of laborers, by what some have referred to as a militant group, to storm the Capitol. They said there would be arms there essentially to protest the shelter in place, saying that we need our jobs and we need our money, we need our income. In Michigan, that's a big headline today because President Trump has tweeted in support of the protesters, but are standing with guns and bandanas outside of the governor's office and kind of, demanding that he doesn't extend a shelter in place and that they get back to work. So how do you kind of make of how people react to this? Like, half of what's been fascinating for me, because, digesting all of this is just what I've been doing, is, watching how people have handled the situation. Have they run out to the beach and celebrated? Have they, have they been paranoid and kind of stayed inside and watched the news 24/7 and worn gloves and face masks in their own showers? Or, have they, taken up arms and decided to organize about it? Like, how do you kind of make of how different people are kind of handling this, and, just
I think everybody is scared. Everybody is scared. And I saw something or read something when they said, we're all in the same boat. And it said, well, we're all in the same storm, but we're all in different boats. I might be riding in a yacht in the storm, and you might be in a little rowboat in the storm. So how somebody with a little rowboat is going to respond versus me in a yacht and I got all the people around me who's going to help me get through that storm. It's a whole different scenario. So that's why you have different people responding and reacting in different ways. But I go back to, what signals did you miss? Because without the coronavirus, you could lose your job. People were getting fired and laid off before the virus. They're going to get fired and laid off. You're going to lose clients before, and you're going to lose clients after the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. You're going to not get loans before. You didn't get them before. You didn't get them during, and you may not get them after. What are you going to do to not ignore those signals that have happened, those signals that are within you, that anxiety that you got? Because sometimes you may have had those anxieties before the virus even hit. That I'm in some financial struggles. My business, can't go past a week. How am I going to make my payroll? So this is not a surprise, right? But what are we going to do with it now to be proactive for the next event that is surely going to come? That's the key. Back into self-reflection of yourself and your business, your career, because we assume that this coronavirus, we treat this change as an event. I'm going to get through this change event of the coronavirus and then everything's going to be okay. Well, it's just going to be another thing. So I go back to, change is constant. You should model your business and your career and your life as though change is. And how do you model your business self and everything to adjust to that change, to strategically position yourself knowing that that change is going to come now?
So let me ask you a question. So let's get there. So for the leader who is home, or the small business owner who is home right now, and they're just kind of sitting on the couch and they're just kind of looking at a blank TV, with this making white noise, where would you tell them to start to sort out where to go from here, or what would you say to them to start this process of moving with this change?
You always have to assess, where am I today? Where am I today right now with my finances? Where am I today with my health? Where am I today with my family and friends? Where am I today in my relationship with my significant other? Where am I today spiritually? Am I spiritually connected? Where am I today in living my purpose? What you were doing before the virus, is that what you want to do after the virus? Because I'm going to tell you, according to Gallup, 24% of people that's listening here hate what they do. 63% were disengaged in what they were doing. So do you want to go back to that? So where do you stand today? That's what you need to be figuring out. Keep the TV on with the white lines going, but reflect and get yourself a blank sheet of paper and start figuring out, where do you stand today? Where do I want to be in each of these areas? And business is a part of that, right? If that's your thing. Where do I want to be? What is the gap? I'm here today. I want to be here after the virus, or soon after, or 2 years after the virus. Well, what is that gap of things that I need? Do I need to update my skills? Do I need to figure out, what do I need to stop spending so that I have more savings the next time something like this hits? So that I'm not paycheck to paycheck, but I've done what everybody has been. Well, how many times have we heard have emergency funds? But then how much shopping are we doing on Amazon? Home Shopping Network, that's me. And so I've done the same thing that I'm telling everybody else to do, because you are the leader of your life. No, but Kemp not. Trump's not. We are the leaders of our life. And what do I need to do? Make it personal. What do I need to do? And what am I doing today? Is it aligning with where I said I want to be? If it is not, what do I need to change to align myself to where I said I wanted to be? The coronavirus, this event has happened. Where I said I wanted to be may not be there after this. So how would I adjust my direction?
Right.
How do I rechart my course and navigate myself to get to where it is that I said that I wanted to get to? This could create whole new opportunities. How long has this whole virtual thing been in existence? But people have stayed
and now
off
I'm realizing how subpar it is, Miss Gladys. I'm sitting here like, what? There's so much you can't do. And we've been using this technology for a while. This is not most people's first Zoom experience. And now it's like, you know what? You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. It's how much? Like, I'm like, man, we really don't have that many great solutions at all, now that this is what we have to do.
But guess what? With this Zoom, I can touch people all over the world, sitting right here in my living room.
For sure.
If you did
it's a
something
prime
face to
opportunity to
face,
like
you're going to be
it.
getting just those people in the community and maybe some people traveling.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about your perspective and how you look at things. Is the glass half empty? Or is it half full?
Mm-hmm.
What's your perspective? What is your mindset around what it is? And if your mindset is going to be defeatist, then that's the result you're going to get. But this is a time where you got time to be creative. Turn off the TV. I've started turning off, watching the news. I was watching the 24/7, turning that off. I'm listening to more music, working out, walking, and paying attention and being present with it, actually hearing the birds.
Yeah, chirping.
Yeah. It's that kind of stuff, you all, but it's self-awareness and coming back into you and what can I do? It's not about, because we can't control Kemp. We can't control Trump. We can't control that a virus came in. Nobody can control that. But we can control what our reaction and responses and behaviors are going to be associated with that. But this should be no surprise. We've had 2008 before. We've had SARS. Jobs lay off. Clients leave us. We've lived paycheck to
So I guess
paycheck
my
before,
question is,
etc. Mm-hmm.
so do you think this looks a little different because we don't have a lot of answers from higher leadership? Because in the past, it's I don't think it's so much that something happened. Like you said, something is always happening. I think the thing that makes it so much worse is there's no answer. There's no cure. Every other day you come up with some new symptom that you didn't know anything about. There's just no answers. So let's say use for example the small business owner or the individual sitting on the couch watching TV. Let's say they did the list and they decided that where they are is not where they want to be. So what would be their next step? Let's say the small business owner right now is 2 steps from going under. They know they love what they do, but right now they just way out. What would you say to them?
You have, what do you need? Because I do believe in, what do I need right now? I don't have any money. My business might go under, but can you feed yourself every day? You have children? Are you able to take care of your children? Because remember, we're promised daily bread, right?
Mm-hmm.
Moments. We're so focused on the future and all that. Sometimes you just got to bring it back down to the moment that I'm in right now. You know what? I'm being taken care of in this moment. I'm breathing. Sometimes it just gets to, I'm breathing. I got a loaf of bread over here. Because see, I remember being in, when I was living in Africa, you know, what they would do is they'd get a loaf of bread, those who couldn't afford it. And they ate a loaf of bread. And they were doing hard labor out there in the street to fill their belly. Look at back in the day, y'all, where we come from. Come on now.
Facts. This is true. This is very,
Where
very
we
true.
come from, what did we have? We had nothing. And what did we do? We made something out of nothing. So we can do this. But if you believe you can't do that, you won't be able to. And this is why it's important as well to have, who are you connected with? So that you don't have to do this thing alone. I know someone who has a hair salon who grew up with my daughter. She grew up doing my daughter's hair from, you know, high school. And she finally was able to get her own salon. So proud of her. And she had to leave her salon. And she chose not to open back up. And she don't have all of this money and millions of dollars to lay up on. And she has children and things like that. But she says, I'm not going to open back up because it's not the right time. And do I have to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? Because I'm going to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches if I have to. I'm going to go get that loaf of bread and eat just a loaf of bread all day if I need to. Go get a pot of beans and eat a pot of beans, right? You call your creditors. They all know. In 2008, they hardly didn't want to hear it, but now I think there's more where you can call your creditors and just alert them, hey, I don't have the money coming in. I need a delay. Can you give me some delay? But not if you ignore the problem like it's going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Move toward the problem. I can't pay my bills. Call your creditors. I have no money to buy groceries. Go to the food bank. Who's, again, is in your circle of people that you can call, that you can reach out to. Right? What can you do? And you can do something. And I talk about the seed, the size of a mustard seed. And sometimes you're in the midst of stuff and you just have to know that seed, that mustard seed is there. And then just nurture that mustard seed until it grows. Just keep nurturing it. Keep practicing and doing things. Don't sit. Just keep doing things. Don't sit. Keep thinking. how can I do my business differently than how I was doing it before? What am I going to do? I didn't like my job. What can I do to improve my skills while I'm doing this and still getting paid by corporate? How can I still do that and get my skills up so that I'm ready to maybe do something different? Should I do an online course? There's a lot of free stuff that's out there. Are you even Googling to find out what can you get that's free? But you got to get up. I say get up off your ass and get it done. I'm just saying.
Yep.
You just have to do that, y'all. And I don't mean to be, I'm just saying if you want to achieve your outcome, if you want to move from here to here, you can't do that sitting down and waiting on things to come to you. So that's why I named my company Ignite Within, because you gotta go in there and ignite that fire within you when stuff like this happens to you and it comes down on you. Ignite that fire, nurture that little mustard seed of encouragement that it's going to be okay. All things work together for my good. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. See, that's the things that I say to myself. But we can't say it just as words. We say things as just words, like we just, but do you mean it? Do you feel it? Is it a part of you really? Because if it is, it's going to motivate you differently than you just saying something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I think that's exactly right. And especially right now, because there is nothing that we can change and that we can control. I've seen a lot of people take this creativity and take this time in a good way. And Ricardo, you were talking about this from the jump. You were like, I'm so excited to dive into all these things I need to do. And I would go to the store and I see people with not just designer masks, which was, innovative enough. People all over their tables doing designer masks, but now makeup proof masks. And I mean, so, people, I think, are at least doing the best that they can to take advantage of this time also. And if you didn't have any peace and you were distracted by everything you had going on with nowhere to go and nothing to do, it's very clear when you're unsettled and you don't have any peace because there's nothing left to do but stare that in the face.
And sometimes you just need to be still. Maybe you were going 200, 300 miles an hour before, and now you just need to be still and rest. Mm-hmm. Maybe you just need to rest. Maybe you need to get reconnected with your family. Right?
Oh, that's
be reconnected with your friends. Be reconnected with your husband, with your wife. Maybe that's what you need to do. We all each need to figure out what we need to do. What do we need in this moment? Because there are lessons in this moment as there is in every moment. So what is the individual lesson for me, for you, for any person that is out there all over the world? What is this lesson for you that you need to learn so that when the next event happens, you're more ready for it? Maybe not perfectly ready for it, but you're more ready than you are today. Maybe mentally ready, maybe more financially ready, right? Mm-hmm. More healthy in your body, right? So, but you got to sit long enough to figure it out and not just blindly just blankly watch the TV, mm-hmm. because all you're doing there is just feeding yourself the negativity. The National Science Foundation says that we have up to 60,000 thoughts per day. Mm-hmm. And of those 60,000 thoughts, 80% of those doggone thoughts are negative thoughts.
That's true, but why did Ricardo look like, I don't have that many?
Exactly. Well, we can talk about that separately if we need to, Ricky. But that just says we have this negative spiral tape going. So if you're sitting there idle, not doing nothing, and just letting all this stuff feed you, all this negativity, and then you call up somebody and you talking the negativity with them, and they feed, yeah, you right, girl, I can't believe what it is. You're all just feeding off all that. And see, all those, that 80% of the negative thoughts that we do, 95% of those thoughts are repeated. So we don't have the negative thought once. We keep repeating that stuff. Y'all have had that negative tape in your head going, and you 15 minutes later say, because your body has tensed up. Your body's tensed up. You 10 minutes into a conversation with yourself in your head. You got to know, I got to switch that off, and I got to put some goodness up in there. Can't keep this, but it's up to you to do that.
You've got to take hold of every thought.
Yes,
That's
so
true.
Control you and stop controlling everything and everybody else. Control you. That's what I say.
Well, I think that's the scary part, though. Like, I've seen people, and I think this is where, especially our community, it's a moment for us to really reflect on mental health. Because I've seen a lot of people who are really struggling because they're not used to being alone with their thoughts. You know, there's something to be said when I'm going 200 miles an hour and I don't have to sit down in my thoughts and I don't have to fester in and stuff actually under my surface. But when you've been home for a month, and, you know, yeah, it's cute to work from home, but there's still, some people have still found ways to keep things going. So if you're still sending your kids to a daycare that may still be open, or if you're letting the kids stay with their grandparents or things of that magnitude, now it's just you. And yeah, you have the computer in front of you, but there's no Bob, there's no Jane around you holding conversation. You know, it's just you with your thoughts, with, you know, all the stuff that you've been avoiding. So I mean, and I know you're not a therapist, but, you know, it all kind of fits together. It's like, what would you say to somebody who is now wrestling with those same, 60,000 thoughts? And for your information, Simone, I had to look at my face. I was like, that explains a lot.
Okay.
So get you and look on my face. But Gladys, what would you say to those individuals who are, you know, now the demons have shown up, and now you're hearing oh, well, you knew this day was going to come and you wasn't prepared for it. So here we are. What are you going to do now, fool? You know, what would you say to those individuals who are now battling those types of demons? How do you, you know, what do you do? What would you do?
I say celebrate that you recognize that you got the demons, that you were in that space. Hallelujah. Because until you are aware of it and admit to it, you're going to keep doing it. So be thankful that you have come to that realization and that you were put in this position to get to that place. Because once you get to that place, now you can do something about it. Before, you weren't going to do anything about it. But this is where that circle of people come in. Because some people can process that by themselves. They can read books. They can listen to motivational tapes. They can learn how to meditate, but sometimes you need someone else. And that could be a professional counselor. They are doing mental health things online now. Mm-hmm. So it's not that you got to go into someone's office. So again, it's now that you are aware that I'm in this place and I don't like being by myself to myself because maybe I'm not liking myself right now. What we gonna do about that? Because it's up to each of us to then say, now what am I gonna do about it? What intention? I'm gonna pay attention to it, set an intention to take some action behind it. What action you take depends on what you can do. It could be reaching out to someone that's close to you who's not just going to feed into what you're saying. So you don't need people who just feed in and agree with everything you're saying, but somebody who is honest with integrity, who listens. Mm-hmm. You know, too often we want to tell everybody what to do. Well, you need to go do this and you need to listen. Just listen. And help guide them into what's best for them versus telling them what's best for them, because what you're really doing is telling them what you would do, and it's not about what you would do, right? So I say be gentle with yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Be aware that, oh my God, I'm in a different place now. I'm at least in this place of awareness, and so now I can take it to another level to start bringing myself up out of it, right? And I say to people, and I've always taught my daughter, and I actually learned it from Dr. Barbara King. I don't know if you all know her at Hillside Church, but she would tell us, if you have that negative thought, I'm not worthy. I'm never going to get myself up out of this. I can't believe that I didn't do what I said I was going to do. That 7 times you repeat something positive about that particular situation because it gets you out of that mindset and gets you thinking in an uplifting thought, something good, because there is good. There is good,
Absolutely.
right? But you have to take ownership. And maybe that's and you may need help. It could be professional. It could be, like I said, books, motivational, whatever. It could be coaches. It could be, a number of things. But the point is not to just sit and be aware of it and then do nothing with it. Right. And there are a lot of free resources out there. Right.
All right, so let's go on to the other side after whatever happens with this is over with. So to those, like I said, sticking with the same small business owner who's sitting on the chair watching the white noise on the TV, how can they get prepared to do better when we move on from this and there are no more stay-at-home orders and the cities open back up? How do they be better at their business or better with what they're trying to do? Like, because I like steps. You like to give steps. So I mean, what kind of steps do you tell them to take to get prepared and get ready for when this blows over or whenever this changes into whatever is going to be next? What are the steps they can take to get that going now?
So I said that step one is to assess where you are today, right? And based on where you are, setting goals about where do you want to be and what are the gaps associated with what you need to do in order to get from here to get to there, right? But to know where you want to be, do you really know? How do you figure out where you want to be? So I would encourage everybody to really think about, what are my talents and gifts? For what purpose do you want to use those talents and gifts? And to do it where it's not about a particular job, a particular industry, a particular career. Because as these events happen, as change occurs and technology changes and problem and people and times and all of that kind of stuff changes, you want to, in my view, be in a position where you are not so locked into this one thing and this is all I can do. And if something changes, I can only do this. And now, bam. Those who were in manufacturing jobs and they did this, and then robots came in and took his place, and then they didn't get out to figure out what else can I do. I know someone who was in HR and did her HR business and not in the business anymore. And I said, well, what are your talents and gifts? Because it extends beyond just HR, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about getting to know who you are. So, what are your talents and gifts? How do you want to use them? Who do you want to impact in your life, in that business, in that career, whatever that is? How does that align with your values that have to be embedded in everything that you do? And what is the personal outcome that you want to receive from doing that? So, for example, mine, I call it a clarity statement, is I want to use my talents and gifts for the purpose of bringing out the potential in others, giving guidance and direction to impact women and girls that aligns with my values of integrity and excellence in all that I do. And the personal outcome I want to get from that is to get money, be of value, and to be valued. So it has nothing to do with the job, nothing to do with the career. So how can I do that? So I know that that is who I am at my core. So whatever event happens, I'm always going to be seeking opportunities that aligns with that. But we flip it backwards and we about a job, and that job goes away. And then let me throw spaghetti over here and let me go over here and do this job. And now the event happens. And so let me get over here and let me throw spaghetti over here. So I don't have to do that because I've gone through the process to know who I am and what I want. And more of us need to do that. So, because like I said, change is either you're going to use change or you're going to allow change to destroy you, to use you. And the more you are so narrowly focused, you don't know how to broaden your perspective to see now that this event has happened, those signals that were coming up and popping up in the past and what's happening with you internally that's coming up, something's amiss, something's awry, something's just not right. I need something's going on. And you don't figure that out to say, how can I adjust before it hits you? That's what I'm talking about. To be more ready for it. So there are steps you can take. Where do I stand today? What do you want? Why do you want it? What are you willing to sacrifice to make that happen? In order to get that and where I am today, what skills do I need to build in order to make that happen? What people do I need to bring into my life? What organizations do I need to start, understanding? When I first got into my business, I had no connections with the business community. I had no idea. I had to get up and get out of my IBM bubble and start getting to know people who were outside of IBM, who were business owners, who were women business owners, organizations. I couldn't just sit back and just stay stuck in it. Right? So, those are things that you can do. And like I said, sometimes you can, do that. My book, Imposter, is a book workbook, and it gives that kind of guidance and direction because I believe in doing the work. And it takes you through getting clarity of purpose. It takes you through setting a plan around that, takes you through how to connect with purpose, takes you through how to then communicate your brand. How are you communicating to people who you are and what you want, your value proposition and all of that? And then how do you capitalize on opportunity? Because we have opportunities that tap us on the shoulder all the time. And we miss it because we so, as opposed to this. I know y'all think I'm dancing, but I'm not dancing. I'm just
all dancing. I think you just kind of keep finagling it.
No, I'm just saying this is how we're supposed to be. Because this is liberation right here, because it's like you're not so pressed and stressed,
right?
Pressured, because you know that you put the right things in place as best as you could, right? So that when that event comes, I'm ready. My mindset is, if I'm not ready with this piece, my mindset is ready to know I can take advantage of it, that I can use change and not let it use me. That's what I'm talking about. It all comes back to you. And what are you going to do? As much as we want to put the blame out there, I'm telling you that's a waste of your time. Put that energy and effort into you. Yeah.
All right. So tell everybody how to get in touch with you. Tell them about your book, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so my company, Ignite Within, you can connect with me at ignitewithin.org. My email is Gladys, Gladys, at ignitewithin.org. I am on all the social media, Instagram, Twitter, Ignite Within You, and that's the letter U. Ignite Within You, Facebook. I'm on all of that. LinkedIn, Gladys Agwai. Check me out on the Facebook Live. I'll make a comment and I will put in the comment how people can get in touch with me. The book, I'll put a link about the book in there as well. It's on Amazon. Imposter, 5 Strategies to Your Authentic Self. And I'm writing another book that's due out in the fall called Dumped, Not Dumped On. Dumped, not dumped on. How to stop reclaiming rejection in your life, business, and career. Y'all, we hold on to rejection too long now.
That's very true. Very true.
Yeah. So that's
fine. Now you've done that, now you're gonna make me feel bad because I'm like, okay, you've been home long enough to write your second book. Like what you waiting on? And that them demons, especially them donut demons and them savage demons, they keep showing up and they win it. I want they win. I feel really bad about it, but
But you know, we think that those donuts are the distractions, but that's not the distraction. The distraction is, are you overwhelmed? Do you have a fear of failure around your book? Are you bored with it? Are you doing something that really matters to you? So let's get real about what that's the distraction. You eating the donuts is just the time, how you use the time for being distracted because you're overwhelmed. Right? For me, I'm writing my book, but I'm overwhelmed by, am I going to get this right? And I will tend to, oh, somebody just texted me. Let me check. Well, I don't need to check that text message, right? But the text is not the distraction. The distraction is I'm being overwhelmed in this moment. And so I want to go do the easy thing. So know the difference, right?
You're not about to psychoanalyze me on my own show. That's what you're not gonna do. You're not gonna psychoanalyze me on my own show. That's what you're not gonna do.
You know, I bring out potential and give guidance and direction. That's who I am. What can I say?
You know what? You just say that, Gladys. Okay, you just say that. You just got to get me real quick. All right, Simone, you got any thoughts before we wrap this up?
So the last thing I'll say, this is something that you can do and that you can take action on. Ahmaud Arbery was a 25-year-old who was murdered in Brunswick, Georgia. There's a piece that just broke on the New York Times this week. This happened back in February. It's still a pending case, pending investigation, but the Brunswick NAACP and the Georgia NAACP are calling on folks. We're in a virtual environment right now. His family has said that they're very worried that there won't be any attention around what's going on with him. There have been no charges filed, and a lot of his family is worried essentially that this will get swept under the rug just because nobody can leave the house. But there's virtual action you can take. So I would just encourage you to go to the Georgia NAACP website to just look up more about Ahmaud Arbery. I'm sure you'll see all about his case. It's definitely worth looking into. And hopefully if we have a little bit of time later on in the week, there'll be some updates there I can share with folks. But it's trending, so I know it's something people know about. And there is something you can do, even though this is going on. It just goes to show that, you know, it may be a break for some, but it's not a break for all. And there's still some problems we're dealing with that are, again, as Ms. Agwai said before we aired, they're familiar problems, but they deserve our attention just like anything else does right now. So
that's right. That's right. And do something.
Yeah,
even if it's voicing your disagreement with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, when I heard this story, I thought about To Kill a Mockingbird, that first scene when they described the events of what happened. It's just like, so you're minding your own business in your community, and you get cornered by people that are not Black, and in essence get shot. Like, how does that happen? And To Kill a Mockingbird, you have a little girl, she gets cornered, and I went immediately to death. Definitely, we will definitely get into that next week once everything continues to unravel. Because, like Simone was saying, the people that were the aggressors, one of them is a retired police officer, I believe, and I think he was a detective too, or something to that extent. So one has to worry, like with coronavirus going on and people really being consumed with that, are we really going to turn the other way with this situation? Because just because you've been on the police force doesn't make you a automatic good guy. It doesn't automatically make you right. So definitely want to make sure that we get into that. And I saw that Attorney Griggs really is carrying on with that. And I associate him with NAACP. So we definitely want to keep going with that. Any final thoughts, Miss Gladys? And any final thoughts you want to leave with the people?
Just know that change is constant, that change is, and it's your choice to decide to use change or be used by change. And I recommend that you want to use change to your advantage and to leverage change to your advantage, and that it all begins with you, not anybody else. And you can only control you. You can't control anything or anybody else. So start focusing on you. We spend too much time focusing on everybody else and everything else, and we don't take the time to focus on getting to know who we are, to be who we are, to love who we are, and to be unapologetic about it.
Very true.
All right, everybody. So there you have it on Monday. Okay, so look, shouts out to Simone, because God knows if I didn't have Simone, I don't know where I'd be. Gladys was with me because it took us 15 minutes to figure this out, and it's still not with her doing it. But we're gonna drudge on. Everybody that knows me knows I hate virtual stuff. This is not what I do. But nonetheless, people need to hear these great voices such as Gladys. And Monday's guest, who is I call him another doctor. Dr. Byron Jamal will be here on Monday. He is a love coach. So anybody know me, though that is not my thing. I am not a relationships guy. I don't talk about love. It is what it is. But I think that I'm bringing him Monday because everybody's home, and now people are starting to feel that little lonely bug. It's like dang, I've been running, and I don't. Who am I spending time with? There's nobody blowing up my phone, so on and so forth. So Byron's going to come on Monday to help us find that balance, so that when the world opens back up, we can have that balance because we've learned it over the course of being home. So on Monday, we're going to talk about love and relationships as it equates to being an entrepreneur, as it equates to being an executive, how you can find it. We probably gonna talk about what is your love language, all that good stuff. I'm gonna leave that all to him. So on Monday, same time, same place at 12 o'clock, right here on Facebook, the Leadership Brain with the host Ricardo Rice. And we'll see you guys on Monday. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Be safe.
Later. Safe. Love y'all.
Love you.